grown strawberries successfully for many years, and each year I get a really large harvest, but I do get a lot of questions from other growers who struggle to grow strawberries for various reasons. And in this video I want to share with you common mistakes that are made in relation to growing strawberries that prevent people from getting a really good harvest every single year. Now, you may have read that strawberries are very minimal maintenance, and to a point that is correct, but there are certain times of the year when you need to do things to your strawberries to get them ready for the growing season, and when they get into the fruiting and growing season they do become less problematic in relation to maintenance, but the preparation is the crucial part in relation to getting your strawberries ready for that fantastic harvest. And when we get to autumn and winter every year, when the strawberries have now finished fruiting, often the strawberries will die right back. The leaves will go brown and they start to look a little bit sad and sparse. And that's just the natural progress of the plant growing. And when we come to spring, when the growth starts to reappear in the strawberry plants, that's the time we should be maintaining them. And a common mistake that I've seen made is that the area around the strawberries is not tidied up. The runners have been left to grow all over the place. So a strawberry patch can look really untidy at that time of year, with runners growing everywhere, brown leaves, and the whole patch just looks a right mess really at that time of year. But that's the time it needs to be tidied up, because in preparation for the fruiting season you need to tidy around each plant, gently remove any of the brown and dyed leaves, cut the runners, and then take the new plants that you're going to replant for your future crops, and there should be clear space around each plant. And also what I will do is loosen the soil around each plant. So once I've removed the runners, tidied all the brown leaves, I'll get my hand fork and gently loosen the soil all around the plants. But remember that strawberries have shallow roots, so if you are taking runners out, don't try and just pull the runners out. Use a set of secateurs and actually cut them near the plant before you start to dig them up, because if you pull them, it's likely that you'll disturb the roots of the main plant as well, so always do that carefully. So never let your strawberry plants run rampant and just assume that you're going to get loads of strawberries. It's likely that if you were to leave them, they would still produce strawberries, but they will be very scattered and all over the place, and you wouldn't know which plant related to which year. And as we're going to see in a minute, older plants are a lot less productive than newer plants. It's worth understanding the life of a strawberry plant to understand what we need to do to help them to grow in future years. So when the strawberries start to fruit, they will start to also produce runners, which are little strands that the strawberries will start to grow, and these are effectively new plants, and if they're allowed to grow and root, they will produce new strawberry plants. However, that's no good to the strawberries when they're fruiting. We need all of the energy and all of the nutrients to go into the strawberry plants while they're fruiting so that we can get good strawberries. So if you allow those runners to grow during the fruiting season, much of the energy of the plant is going to go into the runners, which is where you don't want it to be. You want it to go into the fruit and into the strawberries. So one common mistake that's often made is the runners are allowed to grow during the fruiting season. All you need to do is cut them right back to the plant while they're fruiting. Now when the fruiting is finished, that's the time where it's appropriate to allow these runners to grow, and they'll produce your new plants for the following year. And now this brings me on to my next common mistake, which is rotation. Now, in order to get really productive strawberry plants, you need to ensure that you're replacing any plant that's 3 years old with a newer plant. Because as previously mentioned, older plants are less productive than newer plants. So in the bed at the left-hand side of the central path, you'll see my strawberries, which are now in their 3rd year. These are going to produce most of the strawberries for this year, and then next year, all of those will be dug up. In the bed over to the right hand side is split into 2 halves. The half on the far side are the new plants from last year, so they'll produce strawberries for this year. And the plants nearest to the camera, the other half of this bay on the right hand side, are the runners that I took from this year. As you can see, this bed is all tidied up, and as I was tidying up, I dug up the runners from the right hand side over here and then replanted them. Now these won't produce a great deal of strawberries this year. They will produce some, but next year will be their main crop. Then what happens next year is these ones here will all be dug up on the left hand side, and they'll be replaced with new plants from the runners which will be produced from these plants. These plants look quite small at the moment in this side, and that's because of where we are in the growing season, but they will get much bigger. So as you can see, there's a 3-year rotation plan. So every 3rd year, I'm replacing the 3-year-old plants with new plants in a continuous cycle. And that is a common issue with many growers and don't understand why their strawberries are getting smaller and smaller. And that's because the plants are just probably too old. Now, another common mistake I often find with other growers is the lack of watering. It's really important that you regularly water your strawberries. They're only a shallow root fruit, so therefore any moisture that you water or any rain that they get is very close to the surface. So when the temperature starts to increase or the sun comes out, any moisture is going to rapidly evaporate out of the ground and the roots won't get the water they need. If you have prolonged spells of dry weather, it's really important to water the strawberries every day or at least every 2 days. And it's a very simple job of just watering just directly over the surface. You're better off giving them one really good soak as opposed to a little sprinkle here and there. And that'll do your strawberries the world of good. Now, it's plainly obvious when strawberries haven't been watered appropriately because they go dry very quickly, and that is going to result in much less fruit. So watering regularly is really important. And finally, you love strawberries, I love strawberries, but so do birds, insects and other pests. So if you want to keep your strawberries, then you're going to have to protect them. And this is another common issue that affects the harvest of strawberries. When you've taken all that time to get them to grow, and before you can pick them, they're eaten by a bird or another insect. So therefore we have to protect and we have to net them. Now it's really important you choose the right netting. Strawberries behind me are completely covered in this bird netting here. And this bird netting has a mesh grill of about 10mm by about 10mm. And that's important because in protecting our strawberries, we want to make sure that we still allow pollinators to come in. So when those strawberries start to flower, they need to be pollinated before the strawberries will be produced. So if you were to use something like a scaffold netting or a mesh, you would still get the strawberry plants growing and the flowers growing, but if they're not pollinated, you get no strawberries. So make sure you use the right netting and completely cover your plants to fully protect them. But what I would say is if you are going to protect any fruits or vegetables with netting, make sure that you apply the netting correctly so it's secure. Because what you don't want to do is put netting, for example, over my strawberries, and if I've got gaps in it, it could allow birds or other wildlife to become trapped, and we don't want that. Yes, we do want to protect our fruit and vegetables, but we don't want to harm any wildlife. So make sure that you install your netting correctly. I mean, if you go online and type in bird netting, you'll get a whole range of different products. This was purchased online. Now, I purchased this roll about 2 years ago, and from memory, it cost me around about £35 for a 50-metre roll. Now, if that sounds expensive, just bear in mind that you use this netting over and over again, so this will last me many years. So as an investment, it's really good value. So I hope that's given you 1 or 2 ideas about things that you might think about doing to try and improve your strawberry harvest. Some of those things you might be doing already, some of them you might need to tweak a little bit, and maybe there's some that you haven't really thought about. Now each year I always get a really good harvest of strawberries without fail, and all that just simply by using the techniques I've discussed in the video. Now I have produced 1 or 2 other videos on the channel in relation to strawberry growing, which you might want to look at in more detail. So for example, there's a video that talks about my 3-year rotation plan and how to do that. And there's also a video showing you how to get an endless supply of strawberry plants from your existing plants by digging up and planting the runners. So I'll put links to those videos in the description box below, so make sure you check those out if you want more detail. So thank you very much for watching the video. I really hope you've enjoyed it and I hope it's given you 1 or 2 tips. If you did like the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and if you want to subscribe to the channel for future videos on how to sow and grow fruit and veg and flowers and 1 or 2 recipe ideas, don't forget to press the subscribe button. And I'll see you all on the next video.